Hey guys, this is Fahad Syed from Pixel Icons, and today I'm going to be bringing you a challenge run of Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. And I'm also going to be bringing you some additional stuff in the form of voiceover post-commentary, which is going to include some of my follow-up to the E3 2015 trailer analysis that I did, and also some analysis of Ground Zeroes, just things that I see along the way throughout this gameplay, some tips for how to get through the tougher areas of this game, and some miscellaneous stuff. So, why don't we go ahead and jump right in. Let's get started. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to be skipping through the cutscenes and the story of this game. It's great, I love it, kind of, but it doesn't have any place within this video. In every video of like a challenge run, speed run, or like hard mode S-rank run that I see, everyone always sprints across this field, and when I tried doing it for the first couple of times, I kept failing. You have to do it immediately as soon as that spotlight turns, and that allows you to sprint through this first area. Anyways, I actually want to start off here while we're doing this early stuff by talking about some of the stuff that I did in my trailer analysis. So, thanks to Simon Templar and to Yellow Motion for pointing out that the theme for Phantom Pain is actually race and revenge. But the rest of the analysis still applies, right? So, maybe pain isn't the main theme, but the rest of the linguistic stuff, and really all of the pain stuff, can really just be fit onto race. As Daiza points out in the comment section, language and race are linked on a very intrinsic level, right? So, Daizo brought up the Carol DeLange quote, "Language is the essence of culture and humanity." And so that really speaks to these artificial race categories that we have set up and can fit into the broader theme. Alright, so I kind of use magazines a lot in this playthrough. There are playthroughs that prevent you from using magazines. What I don't like is that magazines are considered in this game to be a weapon, which, I mean, I wish Snake had lost his arm already so I could use that distraction. I could spin his wrist around and make the noise to attract them. Because I don't really use it as like a distraction, I use it as a way to sort of get them near me. So, by the way, tossing the guards off of the cliff into the water is a non-lethal, like, execution, really. I guess it's a really contradictory way to say it, but it doesn't kill them. The game doesn't count it as killing them. And so it's really the best, it's the go-to strategy for eliminating these three guards so you can free all the prisoners and not have to worry about them getting back up. I think Kojima did a very, very good job in drawing parallels from Camp Omega to Guantanamo Bay. People hold events like the Holocaust to be terrible, right? But I don't know if that's because the people who were persecuted in the Holocaust were persecuted because of the way they were, or because of the events that actually happened and the way the persecution took place, right? So, if it's the former, then I guess it makes sense why no one really cares that much about all the cruel torture that goes on and denial of constitutional rights in Guantanamo Bay. But if it's the latter, then it's really just a form of hypocrisy and blindness. And I really like how this game sort of thrusts that in your face. By the way, opening up this gate and throwing that one guard into the other guard is my favorite part of the early run of this game. It is amazing. I love it. It puts a smile on my face every single time. By the way, if you're doing this on your own, don't unlock Chico's cell, because if you unlock Chico's cell, it will trigger a cutscene which will spawn some new guards on the route that we took to get into the prison. Just unlock the prisoners first, and then, you know, carry them on your back to the drop point.
Another prisoner. Looks like he's alive. A POW. That's fine if he has some intel, I guess.
Something I want to point out. You notice how Snake's arm clips through the prisoners until you like push the gate open? I really don't know how that got past Q&A because it's really distracting. It really looks bad. But it's one of the only issues that I've found with anything in this game, besides some qualms I have with the way some of the controls for Snake are with the keyboard. It might be with the controller too. I'll point it out in a little bit later. Ludo narratively doesn't make a lot of sense for you to be throwing those prisoners, right? They've had it's pretty much implied that they're innocent of their crimes. They might have broken bones. They've been psychologically beaten and tortured. You're rescuing them. You feel empathy for them. You want them to like you because they're probably going to be part of your army at MSF. And so if you throw them, that could potentially kill them because they're in a weakened state. But the game doesn't take any of that into account mechanically, so just throw them. So the way I throw them, I wait to get to this one rock, and then I throw them over this rock. That way, when Morpho arrives at LZ, all I have to do is turn around and press R and pick them up, and I don't have to, like, run at all or move anywhere. This is the least fun part of Ground Zeroes, is picking these prisoners up, bringing them to the drop zone. Just because there's 4 of them, so you have to pick up Chico, so you really do make 5 trips back and forth. It's really just a hassle. That's why sometimes when I'm just practicing, like when I practice for this run, I skipped it most of the time, because it's really not worth doing over and over again. All it really does is improve your score. Now, I actually got Ground Zeroes a couple of weeks ago. It was on a Steam sale. I was going to hold out until the Phantom Pain came out. Then I was going to buy it and play them both back to back, but it was $5, and it's pretty funny that I've actually gotten around 24 hours of game out of it, considering that I have other games on my Steam list that are longer than it, like Bioshock Infinite, and I have more hours on Ground Zeroes than Infinite. Another thing I kind of want to point out is if any of you out there in the audience watch this channel called Super Bunny Hop, he did kind of his, not really a full review or an analysis, but kind of his thoughts, his 2 cents on Ground Zeroes. And one of the things he pointed out was he felt that because it was a Metal Gear game, it had a lot of narrative baggage, and so that baggage kind of got in the way of the seriousness and tone of Ground Zeroes, right? This is supposed to be like this post 9/11 detention facility that doesn't play by the rules of the United States and its principles, but is ostensibly a United States facility, and yet it's in the same universe as a giant robot that can shoot nuclear warheads and a man whose face looks like a skull and wears like a Zorro suit. And so yeah, that is kind of weird. You do get some of that narrative dissonance, but it's alright. Honestly, it really doesn't faze me all that much, really. I've kind of just learned to accept the oddities of the Metal Gear games. I can sort of accept that these darker themes and motifs fit into a larger worldview that this game is trying to encompass and create. Because in every world there are really lighthearted things and really dark things. And so it's nice to have this variation. And although it does feel a bit jarring, the juxtaposition that you see, it's nothing that really takes me too far out of the experience. Which might be a problem in of itself. By the way, something I want to point out. I haven't played Peace Walker, so I don't know if Morpho is the helicopter pilot there, or if even there's a similar kind of mechanic there. But Morpho comes from morph, right? The prefix morph, which means to change. And I don't want to get all like literary on people in this video as well, because I already had a video where I did that. But basically, it's kind of poignant that this helicopter's name is Morpho, and that this is the last mission that Big Boss really goes through before he processes that catalytic process that ignites him into a demon.
Okay, target is in.
So immediately I always turn this cassette tape off. Having the cassette tapes on can actually prevent you from hearing the noises that the guards make when they're walking. And the ambient noise that the guards make is very important to having a good sense of situational awareness when you're sneaking around. Although in this area you don't really need it as much. The guards that are to your left aren't very situationally aware themselves. They don't see you very well. This area you can sneak to very easily. You can sneak up to this lit area, and I like to mark this driver because I need to pay attention to when he turns around, and for an area later on, it's going to be invaluable to have it marked because I need to know when he rounds a corner. Although you don't necessarily need to do it, it just helps out. So, randomly you might get seen by the guard behind of you, but by the time he comes to investigate, you'll be long gone. This area is peculiar in the sense that once you get into the truck and the truck takes off, you'll be far enough away from that guard to the point where he won't really be spawned in a sense. He can't actually alert anybody. Here I'm zooming into these boxes because I was infatuated with the detail on the cardboard. I just wanted to mention that I think it's somewhat unfair, but probably necessary that artists and smaller... This is what I mean. Already I'm considering them smaller parts of the production for games and for movies. They don't get as much credit as directors. I mean, I think it's unfair to give them as much credit because they're not doing as much work in that sense, or the same amount of work. But if you were to mention the artist who spent hours creating that cardboard box, casually in conversation, anyone who's played Metal Gear Solid, they wouldn't recognize him, but if you mentioned Hideo Kojima, instantly recognizable. I wish there was more recognition for artists in this industry, and same thing with movies, you know, set designers, makeup artists, they don't get the recognition that the director does. But at the same time, it's kind of two different roles, and it's not really fair to give them as much credit, considering that the director has to bring everything together. So if the final product is bad, it's really his fault. It's just a necessary evil, and I think it's time to appreciate the art and assets within games, and to comment on them when compliments are due, which they are for these cardboard boxes. And so many cool things like the sheen on Snake's sneaking suit.
That's the admin building.
Don't stand up in here, because if you stand up in here, you will get spotted. You can stand up once he turns off the truck and starts getting out, but otherwise, I'm pretty sure you will get spotted. Now, if you're trying to do a run with no magazines, a tactic you can try to employ is you can sprint behind of containers. Once this guy rounds the corner, he will hear you and come around the corner instantly and come and investigate, which is much better than using magazines because it's just faster. His response time is faster. You don't have to wait that 10 seconds. I tried it here, but he got too far away, and I couldn't generate enough noise, so I had to resort to a magazine. And so it takes 10 seconds for him to stroll on over, come around the corner, and then I invariably choke him out. This is always really tense, because... not because I'm worried I'm going to get spotted because of my non-skill or skillfulness as a player, but because there is this weird kind of bug where you can be pressed up against a wall like that, and still get seen somehow. It's probably my biggest gripe with this game. I will be pressed up against a wall, I will equip a magazine, and for some reason Snake will go into an animation where he sort of backs away from the wall to pull out the magazine, instead of sticking to the corner to throw the magazine, which you've seen him do basically every single time I've thrown a magazine when I'm around a corner. I do my best to avoid it whenever possible. It does happen accidentally, and it does happen later on in this video, and I'll point it out when it does. The best you can really do is just be careful with where you're aiming the magazines. And it probably won't be a huge issue in the Phantom Pain because you can use your wrist to make noise instead of tossing a magazine, which I'm more of a fan of because it doesn't count as a weapon. So it doesn't count as a weapon in the playthrough for the trial, which is kind of dumb that magazines count as weapons, but I gotta stop griping about this. So usually this guard, I call him Smokey, he stays in that alleyway there. He starts smoking, you can come up behind him, you can choke him out and pull him around the corner. But here he actually came out, and I was getting paranoid that this would set in motion a chain of events that would drastically alter the small details of this run and prevent me from accomplishing it successfully. But, spoiler alert, I accomplished it successfully, so... Yeah, so knocking out guards and then throwing them knocks them out for much longer than normal. It's better than tranking them, and also it's better than just CQC flipping them. This guard, I like to call him Hawkeye Jr. If you're not prone, when you're coming around that alleyway corner that you saw me prone through, he will spot you. And even if you are prone, he will see the movement and come and investigate in a slow manner. Believe it or not, there is actually a guard that is worse than him. A worse offender. I call that guard Hawkeye because he can really see you from a very far distance. And he is the #1 culprit, the #1 guard that catches me on all my run-throughs of this game. 8 out of 10 times, it's him. Either coming through this area or coming back. And I'll point him out when the camera pans over to him. By the way, I don't mean to insinuate that the Holocaust and Guantanamo Bay are on the same level. That's not my intent, in case I was misinterpreted. What I do mean to say is that they're on a spectrum of terrible things that we've done to people. The major difference in my mind is the fact that everyone agrees that the people persecuted in the Holocaust were innocent, but there is still some fog and doubt about the prisoners of Guantanamo Bay. Maybe a lot of them were terrorists, but we basically know that a lot of them were also innocent as well. So we do have to worry about that, whether we're persecuting innocent people and whether it's worth breaking the rules and principal foundations of our own country in order to do that. Would our founding fathers accept that? I don't think they would. Okay, so after we get through this part, all we really have to do is worry about this guy up here. And if we take care of him now, we don't have to worry about him later, which is the plan. Now, normally, you can actually sneak up here and get behind him without him even looking this way, but occasionally he does look this way, which is why I've opted the strategy of using a magazine here. And right there, you saw me look around the corner and Snake entered a different animation. He was actually peeked away from the corner. If that guard was looking at me, I would have gotten spotted. I don't know why that happens. I think maybe that happens because I'm not looking directly around the corner, so the camera doesn't register that I'm up against a wall. I wish it would, because I don't want to get spotted. Oh, you're about to see a favorite trick of mine. I'm going to bring this guy around the corner, and I'm going to illustrate why I've basically placed all these guards in a mound of dead bodies, or knocked out bodies. So I can do this. That will reset how long they are knocked out for, which is the plan.
Where the hell is Paz?
When I heard that, that usually implies that I'm doing this a little too slowly, so I kind of try to hurry through this area. Just because I wanted this to be the quickest run I've done as well, and we'll see at the end if it is. So, I guess I could talk about some of the stuff in the trailer that I didn't really speak about because it didn't really fit into my analysis of the trailer. We've learned through the preview and through the gameplay that they've shown on E3 that when Snake takes damage to his head, he will basically hallucinate, and you'll have to sort of control his hallucinations. And so a lot of people think that a lot of the appearances of those who do not exist of Skullface in the trailer are hallucinations, which they could make sense, right? Especially in the hospital area. I think what Kojima's probably going to do is he's going to leave it open whether or not a lot of those appearances were hallucinations or not, because that is generally something that gets the fans excited and something they can really talk about. I'm contemplating doing a speedrun of this game, a normal with Reflex on, trying to get an S rank, and I think it's going pretty well. Got my research done a couple of runs, and they're doing alright. Speaking of Paz, Paz also appeared in the E3 2015 trailer. She looked normal, is the best way to put it. What is weird, though, is she was only there for a couple of seconds, and she seems to have been found inside of that area where Snake discovers all these... I think Ocelot was there too. I can't exactly remember off the top of my head. But he discovers all these people being experimented on. So maybe she's a clone. That's what some people think. Also, it could be another hallucination. There's that. So, throwing a guard onto the knocked out body of another guard is also another way to reset their knockout timer. Which is kind of important for this area because these guards take their sweet time getting here. And it is really annoying waiting for them. It's kind of nail-biting. If I were to fail this, right, and reload it, the guards that I knocked out to the right in that room where the staircase is leading up to that camera, they would have gotten up. I would have to been really careful, but here, since it's only... I don't have to restart, there are no checkpoints, I'm doing this all in one take, I don't have to worry about that, which is good. I talk about having to do it in one attempt as if it's a luxury. That's pretty funny. It's a challenge, actually. By the way, isn't it a little ridiculous that earlier on I can CQC a guard and then CQC another guard that are, like, less than a meter away without an alert? That... I mean, when I saw that in some of the runs, I was like, wow, that's insane. I can't believe you can do that. But, lo and behold, you can do that. Strangely enough, you don't get a lot of clipping with pause, which is... Actually, it's probably good. They did a lot of the Q&A for that then. What I need to do now is I need to go back and get all the XOF patches and all the cassette tapes. I'm trying to figure out where they are on my own without using a guide. It's not going too well. I only have 4 of the patches and no other tapes. I've gone into a couple of buildings with red doors, but I haven't really found any. Oh well. I guess I'll just do the side ops then. Right here, holding a guard up with your gun, it's the safest method of doing it, because sometimes the guards will turn around or they'll look around their shoulder and spot you. You'll get the little update that says trial failed and you'll want to rip your hair out. But if you have your gun out, they'll see that you have your gun out and they'll put their gun down and you won't get that alert message, even though they do know there's an intruder. The beauty of this is since I knocked out all the guards and I put them behind that little building, at the corner of that building, I can just run back here, wake him up, knock him out again, reset that, and then go deal with Hawkeye, which is my favorite part of the second half of this. Alright, so now we get to deal with Hawkeye, which is another favorite part of mine. I have too many favorites. I hate this guy. I hate his guts. And dealing with him is heart-wrenching and nerve-wracking because I don't know if he's going to see me or not. But I've created a method that allows me to get behind of him and deal with him in the safest method. If I get around the corner of the building from this side and I throw a magazine, he will approach me at an angle where he can actually see me, which is really dumb. Dumb for me, smart for him. So the best method is actually to come back around here, which is the area we actually came through, and just climb over all these fences and approach it from the back, because we have the most cover there, we don't have a camera to worry about, and he'll actually approach us normally. I do kind of crouch here because I'm worried about the guards that are behind me. I don't think they're close enough to even hear me. And I toss the magazine preemptively because I don't want to risk me getting on the corner, then trying to toss the magazine and getting that weird, that very strange looking bug where I pop out to investigate. Which shouldn't be happening. Got him. Screw you, Hawkeye. I hate you. You deserve that. And now we're in the home stretch. All we have to do is pick up pause and get the hell out of here. And the rest of this part actually isn't really bad at all. It's pretty easy to sneak out of the base. The only hard part is you have to keep your nerves under control and don't do anything hasty in the last couple of minutes of the run. If you can do that, you should be fine. So you do have to be kind of careful here. There are some guards around, and this place is pretty well lit up. But it's not too bad. And that airfield, you can actually sprint across once the spotlight moves out of the way, which I'm going to do right now. And then you have to worry about a guard that's on your left, but usually he's turned around. If you make it there fast enough, you can just sneak off towards the right and not have to worry about him. I guess I'm just going to take the rest of the time here to really thank everybody for coming out and watching my videos, to thank the support I've been getting on building this new channel. It's incredible. I've already reached 1,000 views on my analysis, and I mean, those aren't big by any stretch of the imagination for YouTube numbers, but if you just slow down and think about it in terms of real people, 1,000 people could really fill a lecture hall or a stadium. Think about 1,000 people filling a stadium or a big room to watch that trailer all at once, and it's mind-blowing. I've also reached 69 likes for the trailer so far. I can say that's a great number. I'm glad that I have that. I'm also grateful that so far no one has actually disliked the video. I'm sure there are people who didn't find it interesting, but it's actually kind of astonishing that out of 1,000 people, not one of them took the time out to dislike the video. I hope that doesn't change. I know it probably will as my channel grows. And I also hope you appreciate this middling content, which is not as bulky or comprehensive as my analyses or specials, but hopefully it's enough to hold you over for a little while I work on some new things. I'm planning on working on a mod spotlight for the Bethesda games. Not like individual mods, but I'm going to go through my mod setup for the 3 games that I own, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Skyrim, and then at the end of each of those 3 videos I'm going to do a separate video that's going to highlight sort of the pros and cons of modding, the perils and the pitfalls that you have to watch out for if you want to mod, and some closing words about Fallout 4 in the coming days. I hope you look forward to that, along with my speedrun of this game on normal with Reflex mode on, and no other real constraints. Other than that, I think I'm going to head out and basically leave you to the rest of this gameplay. This has been Fahad Syed from Pixel Icon, signing out. Hope you all have an amazing day. See you guys in my next video.
Roger. Dispatching chopper.